How do we stretch our hamstrings for back pain? It's a common question. How do we get those loosened without making the back pain worse? And there's some very easy tips to make sure you get a good hamstring stretch without bothering your back and actually irritating the same thing you're trying to help. So at the end of our video, we're going to see my top ways to stretch your hamstrings where you can be on your back, sitting, or standing, so you get the most out of the stretch without causing more harm than good. So why do we want to stretch the hamstrings? The hamstrings, if they're tight, can affect our ability to bend forward, to do certain movements, and if they're really tight, it'll put a lot more pressure into our lower back area. Whether we have a disc herniation, sciatica, degenerative joint disease, any of these conditions typically can be strained by not having adequate flexibility in hamstrings, depending on what we're doing and what's going on. So we address that flexibility. That's the first part of hopefully not having that be a problem point. Second part, which we don't always talk about, you can have flexibility, but you also have to have good mobility and control. So we're going to show you some great stretches, but what we also do is we have to figure out how to move in a certain way, so we utilize the hamstrings, that new length and flexibility, and also have the strength to control them. So keep that in mind. Flexibility is part of the overall equation, how we can move better without triggering our back pain. Okay, so the hamstrings basically are most musculature that's in the back, what they call the posterior chain of the body. They attach to these little sit bones here, and they also attach, the upper portions attach here on the femur, and then they extend down like almost like a wire rope down below the knee here. They actually attach to portions of the tibia and also the fibula. They contribute to bending the knee and also extending the hip. But another function of the hamstrings is it allows a lowering. So when this hamstring stretches, like if I'm going forward, the musculature right here, this is where the attachment point is. This is down here. As you forward bend like that, the hamstring has to elongate and essentially lengthen to lower yourself forward. So if the hamstrings are tight, what will happen is you'll bend forward, and then at a certain point you can't go forward, whether it be strength or range of motion. And then what happens is you tend to get your back out of neutral, a little bit of curve here. This is neutral, a normal curve, and then you tend to flex to the back, trying to get that extra distance. Now, it matters what you're doing. If you're doing a lot of things at ground level, you're doing a lot of gardening, or things at low points, or doing deadlifts, this can have an implication if you repetitively do it, especially if you have a history, you have back pain from a disc bulge or herniation or degenerative disc problem. So it'll put undue stress on that area. And if we can work on that lengthening or flexibility of the hamstring, and also get, in addition to getting flexible, also get it stronger, which we'll cover in another video, that lengthening right there will occur, and it'll put less stress on the back when we can. And all we're doing is sparing the back for the times that we can spare it. But it's a really important thing so we can actually move a little bit better with a little greater efficiency. Not that we can't bend forward the way I described in the second one and flex our back, but repetitive flexion, especially if you have a disc herniation or some kind of abnormality in your back, that's something that may stress it unduly, and we're just trying to avoid those things that may trigger your lower back pain. That's why we're addressing your tight hamstrings. So some of the stretches that we commonly see that we associated with hamstring stretching will cause undue stress on the back, okay? So the same things that we're worrying about with lifting and moving. So when we're trying to isolate out the hamstring, really just trying to stretch the hamstrings, we can stretch the lower back too much, or we can stretch the nerve roots that are coming off the back through the hamstrings, okay? So when we do these stretches, the stretches I'm going to show you, try to keep the back in neutral and try and put less tension, they'll call it neural tension, on your sciatic nerve root or the nerve roots that come off the back. Because oftentimes we think we're just stretching this muscle. We're actually stretching a lot of things. We're stretching fascia, skin, ligaments, stretching all these structures. What we don't want to do is put adverse pressure on your back if you're having back pain already, because most people don't tolerate a lot of repetitive flexion. Not all back patient sufferers, but a lot do. They don't like a lot of flexion, whether it be sitting or repetitively coming forward and reaching forward. You'll see that with people then in their first moments in the morning, especially in the morning, they'll really try and keep themselves rigid as they go forward and put their shoes on or put their socks on. So the same thing, if we're stretching a back that's in pain, let's keep the back in neutral, which is a safer position. It's normal, alignment right here, okay, or structural alignment, and let's make sure we're stretching the hamstrings correctly. Second part is we are also talking about nerve roots that are coming off the back, like in sciatica or radiculopathy. These nerve roots come out, and when you stretch in certain positions, which we're going to show you, we'll put more pressure on these nerve roots, which we don't want to. We want to make sure that, because those nerve roots sometimes are already kind of sensitive, so we don't want to put too much tension on them when we're trying to stretch those hamstrings. So here are a couple of tips as we give you my top stretches for the hamstrings. So the first stretch we're going to show you, we're just going to show you lying on your back, okay? And we're going to use a little roll for our lower back. So you can take a little towel. This one's probably a little bit small. And I'm going to place this so we keep a little bit of a curve in our lower back. So we're going to lie down. And our goal is to have the back with a little bit of an arch. If you took your hands, you could place your hands underneath. This is just above your waist, just like so. I use a towel sometimes just to remind me not to completely flex or flatten my back and pin it to the table. So we're going to place it like so. We're going to take our hands like this, put it behind, and we're going to keep this about 90 degrees. Okay? And we're simply going to straighten out our leg, and we're going to try and tighten the muscles in the front and the quadricep. Keep the toe pointing down like that, and hold that stretch. You know, let's say depending on your tolerance, maybe 3 to 5 seconds. And then come back down. So we're using this muscle group to tighten, straighten out the leg, and then you'll feel a stretch here. If you feel a lot of stretching into the calf, I would advise you that could be, even though it feels like a stretch, it might be that nerve root getting a little bit irritated. You think it is just muscular stretch. Take your toe, point it out a little bit, or let your leg drift out to the side a little bit. Hold that position for 30 seconds. Okay? And then back down. Some people will actually do it with a little a strap or rope. They'll put it on the very edge of their foot and do the same thing. They'll pull back. This position, when your foot is back like this, you put more tension on the nerve roots, okay? So you also don't want to lift forward like that as you're doing this. You want to let your head relax, or that'll create a stretch to the whole kind of spinal cord and nerve roots all the way down there. So toe forward, a little bit off to the side, tighten this muscle, hold it there for 30 seconds, and try and keep that back flat. You'll find your back will feel like it wants to flatten out. Just go as far as you can. If it's only to here, you're still accomplishing something. You're still stretching the back of the hamstrings. So that's the one you can do lying down. Another alternative is to sit down with this stretch, okay? So I'll have people sit on the edge of a chair or a stool here and just relax their front forward foot. Like we said, if we bring our foot back like that, especially if we straighten out our knee, and we flex forward, we're flexing this whole neurological chain, okay? And you can get a lot of pain. Some people talk about having foot pain when we're stretching the hamstrings, or a lot of calf pain. You may get a little stretch in the calf, but you may be getting some neural pressure, especially if you've had sciatica or what's called radiculopathy, pain radiating down the leg. That may actually trigger it and cause some more problems for your back. So what we want to do is two things. Let that foot relax, kind of plant it, and start with your knee being a little bit bent. So once you have that position, you want to sit up, I call it kind of properly, and we want to hinge at the hip. So we're going to come up forward, and I have people kind of bring their chest out, upright, and reach forward like this, lean forward. Okay? I'm getting a great stretch in the back here, the back of the thigh here in the hamstrings, but I'm not compromising my back. I'm not really getting a back stretch. My back is in neutral, okay? Little indent right in the back here. Proper, like this. We're just hinging. So when you look at it from a side view, I'm just coming forward and I'm not moving the back at all, which is the safest position for the back, especially just coming off this lower back pain episode or sciatica. So that's why we're suggesting this. You stretch something without bothering it. So lean forward, hold it there. Like I said, 3 to 5 seconds to test the waters, maybe 3 times. And then as you feel comfortable, like, wow, this is working out all right. It's not making my back pain worse. I'm not getting sciatica symptoms. I feel a little bit better. Then you can do more. You can hold it upwards of 30 seconds, 3 times for 30 seconds. You can do it many times throughout the day as long as you listen to those basic principles. Okay, so that's one you can do in sitting. So another variation you can do is you can stand like this, just like you're doing sitting, but without actually getting, like, say you're on a track or you're outside and all that. Same idea. You can put your foot out, bend your knee, and kind of come forward like this till you feel a good stretch. Same idea, keeping our chest up. Good stretch in the back, all in the back of the hamstrings, all through this area. Slight bend at the knee, foot in a kind of a neutral, I'll call it neutral position, not upright like so, and then forward. Those are some of the best stretches you can do. without putting adverse pressure if you're coming off of a back injury. It's really much safer. Some of the positions you'll see people stretch in, like some of the runner stretches where they're kind of doing one of these, they're forward and they're flexing forward, they're putting a tremendous amount of stress in the back. Sometimes there's very little stress on the hamstrings. You are in a hamstring stretch position, but you're putting a lot of pressure, especially if you bring your foot up and you reach. As you pull that back, even just do that once, you could say, wow, you almost feel like a different quality stretch to this whole chain into the back. It can really trigger it. So this combined stretches like so can be really detrimental, similar to doing a stretch where you're sitting down, where you're just kind of flexing forward and letting your body fall forward. Same idea. We're just trying to keep the back straight while you stretch your hamstrings. So listen, let's go ahead, get a good, safe stretching routine. Stretching the hamstrings can be one part of a good recovery program or a prevention program so you don't get sciatica, or lower back pain, and depending on what you're dealing with. It also depends on your activity, how important it is, and how flexible your hamstrings have to be. The demands of a gymnast is very different from the demands of someone that's more sedentary. Okay, so keep that in mind. Check out another video that we have coming up. You can hit it that's next coming up. You'll see in our highlights that talks about 3 of my top stretches for lower back pain and sciatica. Check them out. And subscribe to our channel if you want to see other ones. Turn on notifications so you know when we have new videos coming up, and like it or share it. All right. Love to hear from you. Post something in the comments if you want to hear other topics or some questions about what we just talked about. Have a great day.